Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg Schwarzvasti with the Find Your Film podcast. Right now for this installment, I have an interview, pretty extensive, at least extensive for me. It's I think around 20-ish, 22 minutes of an interview I did with filmmaker, producer Jay Silverman. His new film, Yale. It's not Yale as in the university. Yale is in reference to a human being. This is played by character actor Kevin Dunn. You might know him from Veep, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff, but we'll get to that in a second. But for the timely purposes of this episode, Yale makes its world premiere at Dances with Films on June 18th. I will leave a link for where you can buy tickets if you are in the Hollywood area, if you want to go to the Chinese theater on a Thursday and watch a really good movie. I believe on Dances with Films, it's 123 minutes right now. And yeah, it's a really cool film. Really enjoyed the movie. It stars Caitlin McGee as Mac, and she is a writer, semi-successful writer. The problem is she is an alcoholic, and she's not exactly the best mom in the world. She's going through a lot of problems at the moment. The thing is, her problems are overshadowed when her 12-year-old son needs a kidney transplant. Her son's on dialysis, and it's not looking good for her son. She is divorced. I believe she's divorced. And yeah, her ex-husband has a new wife and they're a loving family. The only problem with this dynamic is Mac, she loves her kid. The kid loves her, but Mac is, again, played by Caitlin McGee. She is very irresponsible and has her share of past trauma, which leads us to Yale. Yale Parker is played by Kevin Dunn. When Mac was a young kid, it was a bad thing. She was celebrating her birthday, and her father, Yale, did not show up to her, I believe it was her birthday or event. She was blowing out the candles of a cupcake, and only her and her mother were there. It sets up the whole template that her father is a deadbeat dad, has not seen her for all these years. All that said, with her son, Ryan, needing a kidney, with a possible match, her estranged dad might be a possible match. So it's an uncomfortable reunion with Yale, who is the owner of a strip club, and he loves his employees, and he's a joke-a-minute, bon vivant type of character, and played really well by Kevin Dunn. And Caitlin McGee is the writer who, though talented, she has her own problems, and she is very acerbic and sarcastic. And it's great to see these two wonderful actors go at it throughout the movie. There's a little bit of a twist in the movie that I'm going to not mention, but what happens is they ultimately have to figure out how to get a kidney donation transplant with possibly not Yale, but maybe one of Yale's other kids that he left. He has not been a great father whatsoever. So a little bit of the movie is a road trip aesthetic as well. So that is the premise of Yale. I recommend the movie. I really dug the movie. I hope it gets good distribution here stateside. But again, if you're in LA, Dances with Films, worth it. Caitlin McGee and Kevin Dunn, they're fantastic in this movie. Very heartfelt film. What happens is when you get some of these dramedies, and I mentioned this in the interview, sometimes movies like to wrap it up in a nice little bow with some really sugary, corny moments, which if you like that genre, you might forgive it for that. But I really loved how this movie, it does have a little bit of sentimental touches, but not to the point of syrupy sweet. It's based on a true story. It's on the screenwriter's own maternal grandfather, I believe. And it's a very inspired story and very interesting, but it's also feels very true to life because of a lot of stuff that unfolds in the third act that to me felt more realistic than this stereotypical Hollywood ending. So if you want to see a movie with really wonderful performances from Caitlin McGee and Kevin Dunn, assured direction from Jay Silverman, go to Hollywood. Dances with Films spotlights wonderful independent cinema. Check out Yale. And again, it will be in the show notes. Now, regarding the interview with Jay Silverman, he talks about a whole bunch of stuff, what it takes to be a great leader, an effective leader as an indie filmmaker. And then, because I am blathering about, I'm looking at Descript right now. Descript does AI descriptions of interviews, and I'm going to read it right now because I'm going to say whenever I do something AI, I will mention it. And please yell at me or critique me if I'm not doing a good job by even reading some AI generated slop. But this is a good summary of the interview I did with filmmaker producer Jay Silverman. Quote, Greg interviews, that's me, filmmaker Jay Silverman about his fifth film, the dramedy Yale. It stars, ooh, hold on one second. There is a spider I have to kill. Hold on. Sorry, folks. That is not a good thing. I just killed a spider. Hopefully that does not offend you guys. Yeah, that spider's dead. And I know Anderson, former host over at Cinematics, would have been really disgusted that I did that. And I murdered the spider with the Shirley Temple DVD curly top. That is just a non sequitur stuff. Oh, by the way, I might be covering physical media on Find Your Film as well. Okay, now let's get back to the AI slop. But by the way, Yale is not slop. This is the AI slop from Descript. Okay, so I interview filmmaker Jay Silverman about his fifth movie, the dramedy Yale. It stars Caitlin McGee and Kevin Dunn, and it premieres at Dances with Films at the Chinese Theater. Silverman explains that indie filmmaking is not for the weak. Quote, the reason why he said it's not for the weak, it's in reference to a Caitlin McGee post on Instagram where she said it's really not for the weak. And he echoes Caitlin's sentiment and talks about why it really is not for the weak, because it demands long hours and sacrifice and unpredictability and constant problem solving. I'm sure you guys as cinephiles know that, but this is coming from the proverbial horse's mouth, and he gives some really good insight on the challenges of indie filmmaking. And he aptly describes it as, quote, a puzzle that one has to solve. And yeah, it's a puzzle. I'm not a very smart person, so I'm not very good at solving puzzles, and that's probably one of the many reasons why I'm not a director. I'm just a lowly interviewer. Quote, and the last part of the slop is, quote, Jay Silverman also highlights his overlooked film Camera and his interest in human-centric, community-focused stories. Okay, that's enough of the AI stuff. Bottom line is I will also link a Jay Silverman's official website, and I paraphrase, he is very focused on directing, making impactful human stories, and that fits the narrative behind this movie, behind Yale. I have not seen Camera. That was his previous effort, and it got some really good reviews. And he mentions Camera, which stars Beau Bridges, towards the end of the interview. And I believe as of this recording, Camera is available to stream on Prime Video. If not, I'm sure it's available on a lot of digital platforms. Now, regarding Yale, it's not going to be streaming anytime soon. It's not going to be in your local theater anytime soon because of it's making its world premiere over at Dances with Films. All the links will be in the show notes. And Jay Silverman is a really insightful, good, and honest, candid interviewee. Hope you enjoy it. Again, Yale, starring Kevin Dunn, Caitlin McGee, very wonderful film, insightful, and just inspired filmmaking and storytelling and acting from, just a really good stuff. And hopefully some of you guys will get to check this movie out and tell me what you think of Yale. All right, guys, thank you so much for supporting me over here at Find Your Film. Most importantly, we'd love to hear what movies you guys are really into as well. Please hit me up over at my email, info@findyourfilms.com. Or, I was thinking about other ways to reach me. I'm going to become more social in the coming days and weeks and months, so there will be more ways, but would love to hear some movie recommendations yourself. Towards the end of the interview, Jay Silverman recommended his previous movie, Camera, as well. So, since a lot of you cannot see Yale because you're not near the Chinese Theater or in Hollywood or in LA proper, whatever, you can see Camera. If you have seen or want or see Camera starring Beau Bridges, and yes, Silverman says it's his most personal film to date. He's made 5 in all. We'd love to hear. Homework for you guys, if you guys are out there. Tell me what you think of Camera and hit me up. All right, guys. Thank you guys. Love you. Watch some great movies, and hopefully Yale comes down your ways via theater or streaming sometime soon. All right, guys, take care. And here is Jay Silverman. I'm with Jay Silverman, filmmaker behind Yale. Really wonderful film. Jay, pleasure to meet you.
Wonderful to meet you, Greg. Thank you for having us on today. I really appreciate it.
And no worries. I'm going to just start right off with a pointed question. Caitlin McGee on her Instagram said, indie filmmaking is not, I'm paraphrasing, for the weak. What does she mean by that? Because you have a lot of experience in filmmaking in so many avenues. Do you understand what that means?
Yeah, I think what it means is anybody that chooses to make independent films knows that it's a medium of sacrifices. It's a medium of sacrifices that first start out with labor and then start out with working long hours, then engage. There's no way to ascertain, if you've never done an independent movie, the complexity of it's like working on a master puzzle. You have an ability to be able to, sorry about that.
No worries.
You have an ability to predict but with no true, I'm being totally honest with you, with no true outcome that would be predictable, because we spent 5 years developing this movie, Yale. And within the process of 5 years, it became so, for lack of a better word, incomplete that we made another movie called Camera, which was my last movie. And as you begin to make films, and this is my fifth film, there's just no way you're going to go into pre-production unless you're ready.
Wow, that's amazing. I wonder, on your website, you said you wake up every morning, paraphrasing again, just really amped up and passionate about making true, impactful stories. And you could, it's hard to make a film, period, right? Obviously, but why also make it really impactful as well? Because you're adding the degree of difficulty. I hate to sound very simple. Is it because the whole idea about life is short, you want to make the movies you want to make? Is that as simple as that, or is it much more layered than I'm imagining?
No, I think it's as simple as that. And just to give you a little history, in my career, I started as a photographer, and for 30 years, I was a advertising photographer that did extraordinarily well. Then I became a commercial director, and I did what they call hybrid filmmaking, which is I would shoot stills and I would shoot the live action commercials. And then I eventually got into doing TV shows, and I did The Cleaner for A&E with Benjamin Bratt. And then I started doing movies of my own. And I decided to stay outside the system, because the system predictably is not unlike the TV show that I produced, which was produced by Paramount. And that show was highly influenced by a multitude of individuals. And I wanted to be in a space, especially with the complexity of making an independent movie, where I didn't have a lot of people telling me what to do. It might sound arrogant, but it's not intended.
That said, you being a filmmaker, I've always wondered, what is the key to being an effective communicator and leader when you're not just working with actors, you're working with so many different artists with from different practices and POV, all the while making the movie. Is there some unlock as far as communication with so many different people and motivations? I suppose. I don't know.
No, I think it's a good question. You're asking a lot of really good questions. The business of making independent movies is at many levels. You've got the ones that are celebrity based, meaning big shot celebrities want to be directors and they bring their buddies in, and the next thing you know, it's showing at Sundance. And then you've got people like me that grab investors, and I go out and I take my vision and a screenplay that I acquired and go out and make a movie based upon the confinements of what I consider to be a super exciting, but at the same time challenging endeavor. But the less distractions you have, the more fulfilling it is. You could just imagine working on a network TV show and all the people contributing their points of view. It's very challenging, and it's something I didn't want to repeat. So I started doing what I did. And you asked me a question about getting up in the morning. To me, conceptually, what I do is what I love. I'm a very lucky guy. I wake up, I do the things I love, and I hope that just one person is affected by my movies in a way that's fulfilling. It all starts there. what is my net objective? This is to entertain. But there's messages like any story. You have good messages and you have horrific messages. Genres that you choose, comedic or horror, they all have different objectives. I'm not interested in the horror genre, so I take advantage of a genre that's really about human beings and about the common sense of it all.
I could be wrong. I think it was years ago. Caitlin McGee she was in a series called, I think, Bluff City Law, and short-lived. But I remember watching it and thinking back then, I thought, no matter no matter how far this series goes, she's just a natural. I just thought years. And can you talk about working with her? And then on top of that, Kevin Dunn, how much of a joy was it to realize to put this film on their shoulders and have them really deliver locked in work together? Because that must have been one of the joys of making this movie.
It's a joy and it's also a burden. And I think that's what Caitlin was referring to. To ask an actor to be there every day and perform a task that is totally outside of their real human character, they're doing an art. That's really what makes it special to work with someone like Kevin and Caitlin. And they not only have to become the character, but they have to become cognizantly aware of how to stick with that through the 18 days of shooting. And it's a real art form in that regard. And you asked me how it was for me. It's incredibly fulfilling, but it's a lot of pressure because not only are you making a movie that is complex with emotions and comedy, but you're also making a movie out of sequence. And that to me is like the wrench that gets thrown into the operation, because 1 minute you're celebrating the finale of something, and then you go back and you shoot the sunset where you're at the same location, but it takes place an hour in the movie before that moment. So you got to change your whole frame of mind. The character got to go, where was my character arc at that point? And that's where she has to deliver. And she just knocked it out of the park. So I think your observation is genuine, just like it was when we hired her. She really grasped the concept. And it's pretty extraordinary to work with super talented people. And Kevin, in this, and we just did an interview with Kevin, and I have to tell you, it was a ball buster for Kevin. He admits it. I admit it. Sometimes we didn't get along on the set because, frankly, I think I didn't know whether I was talking to Yale or I was talking to him. And that isn't me talking about an actor becoming the character during cuts and retaining the character. It's more the complexity of him knowing what he wants in order to tell his story, and me making sure I get what I need to cover the script. And it's complicated. I can't imagine anybody making a drama and a comedy where you don't stop and say, this is overwhelming. I'm not lying to you.
On it being overwhelming and complex, am I being too simplistic when I say both of you, whether or not you had your creative discussions, both of you want the same thing, which you want to make this story great? And is that the great baseline that you guys could help just create something good together while you guys are battling out for the best possible situation?
Life is, what you're saying is really interesting because we all have our different points of view. A director carries the burden like of a conductor. He's not playing the tuba. He's not playing the oboe. He's playing the whole orchestra. And at one point, I'm making this up, but the person playing the piccolo has a complicated little moment and it doesn't ring true. And you have to stop everything and you've got to dive into it as a conductor and fix it, or else it's going to sound horrible. And when you're making a movie, it's the identical situation, because no disrespect to the actors, but they're focused on doing their jobs. They're not worried about, in 14 minutes, we're going to lose this location. Or they're not worried about, the rain is going to be here in 3 minutes. It's funny. I say this because unless you've made a movie and been interrupted by weather, you wouldn't understand this. But I've been in situations where I got a whole crew on the set, and all of a sudden the AD shuts the set down. And you look around and you go, what the heck happened? He goes, We got lightning within 20 miles, and you're not allowed to have a set active if there's lightning. Maybe I'm wrong with how many miles away, but the point is he just pulled the plug. And you have no, because it's a union job, you have to obey the union. And at one point, you ask yourself, who could have predicted that?
On that sense, Jay, because with all your years of filmmaking and producing, and I was watching one of your old interviews, and you mentioned that you have that rare thing where you are adept on the business side as well as the artistic side. And that's
Right.
why is that such a rare thing in this business where it seems logical that try, if you're a filmmaker, try to see the other side. If you're a producer, try to see the other side. And
Right.
then maybe possibly marry the two. Why does the twain roads never usually meet? And for you, it has.
I have always, and I've been in business for over 45 years. I can tell you that throughout my entire career, I've always been a right side, left side brain guy. I'm just in that way unique. I'm not saying it's like I can tell you the truth. I'm colorblind, okay? Just as an example. I use it as to my advantage. There are a lot of people that say, how can you possibly make a movie like this movie is so colorful, so rich, so dimensional, and not see those colors? I see color, but I can't identify them. That's a disadvantage to some people, but to me, I made it an advantage. And that's the way I look at all this stuff. It isn't the actor's job to worry about the trailers blocking traffic. It isn't the actor's job to worry that it's going to rain. It isn't the actor's job to make sure that if they missed words and the script supervisor leans over and says, you missed the whole sentence, to be burdened by that. They just fix it. That's why they do what they do.
On that sense, is your job ever done then as a director with your respective films? Even when it's, what's the phrase, it's in the can. Is it ever really in the can for you when you have so many things to do with your respective?
This is my fifth film, and I'm going to say to you unequivocally, tomorrow night when we have our world premiere will be the fulfilling moment of it all. All this hard work for 5 years and singing in front of an audience. I've only screened the movie twice, and both times were for friends and family, meaning the crew and their family and so forth. When you get into the idea of trying to say, where is the fulfilling moment? In some cases, it could be like right now, where the guy who created that horror film that's making hundreds of millions of dollars is celebrating buying himself a car for the first time, or a house, or who knows. For me, the moment is really knowing that the picture resonated and all that effort paid off. Because, and I'm not joking when I say this, my relationship with the whole movie has been a little bit of a schizophrenic thing. And I think most directors would say the same thing, because to keep everybody happy is an impossibility. To resonate positivity has limitations. And I'm an incredibly glass is half full guy. But it does, and I'm not joking about this, require a special personality to handle all these distractions unless you are bulletproof. I've got a heart, so if something goes wrong, and do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I look. I think we're both Gen Xers. I'm assuming. Is it sort of a little kid in you that you're talking about tomorrow night? Dances with Films, great festival at the Chinese, Hollywood. Is that a little bit of your youth coming back and just having those dreams fulfilled, or not? You're such a vet.
It's much bigger than that. And I'm flattered you call me a Generation X, because I'm actually a baby boomer. But I'm saying to you, conceptually, I went to this exact theater when I was in my teens, way before you were born, and saw Star Wars. And I waited in a line around the block that doubled around, okay? And for me, 50 years later, to actually be at that exact same place and screen this movie is indescribable. I'm like a little kid. You're right. Your observations are correct.
A final question is, for my Find Your Film podcast, I ask filmmakers this two-part question. If they could name a movie that they directed that they feel it might be overlooked or underrated, that they would like fellow cinephiles to watch, what makes that film special? And then the second part of that question is, can you name a specific film. I know this is very tough. A specific film that really means a lot to you, maybe one of your all-time favorites that you go back to over the years. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, let me just say this about your first question. My last movie, which stars Beau Bridges and a little boy named Miguel Gabriel, who plays a 12-year-old who cannot speak because of a medical condition, and he uses a camera to communicate, was my most personal film because I would never be in the position that I'm in today if it wasn't for a mentor. And to me, sociologically, especially today in the United States, I don't care what your political, personal preference is, but any type of film that talks about community, to me, is a healthy subject. Okay. And this film, Camera, has been overlooked. Most people don't know about it. It's on Amazon. You have to search for it. But the messaging of that movie is really about humanity and this idea how people bully people and they don't really know who those people are, and how it evolves by strength of learning from a mentor is something we can all learn from and our children can learn from. And that's why I made that movie. And by the way, I was a photographer. So that would answer that question, I hope.
Yeah, and before we get to the second question, I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes, got really high ratings, got some really great reviews. I'm sure people have watched it. What has it
Yes.
been like getting the response from
It's
people who've
extraordinary.
okay.
It's extraordinary because you know what? And I'll use this in simplistic terms. There are so many brilliant people that are in their 70s, 80s that have been discarded. They have such vast human resources and such vast life experiences that they have no one to share it with. And to me, that it's almost like making a movie and asking the filmmaker what didn't make it in the film. It's all the stuff that's on the floor in the old days. They cut the film and cut a scene out. It is so inspiring to me because I look back, I would be nothing if I didn't have a mentor when I was younger. And I just feel that somewhere along the way, we've lost that. And it's all right here. All you got to do is search for it as a young person. And it's funny because I've got 3 daughters, and you didn't ask me this question, but one of the reasons I made the movie was about your self-discovery, your journey. And what is that journey? Guess what? We're all made up of life experiences. And in their case, we had a really difficult family divorce, and they were affected by things that transpired that sometimes were not even in my control. And they carry those burdens with them. So a movie like Yale, in my view, illustrates how human beings that are damaged can really strive to overcome what they experience and not live with it their whole lives. Isn't that like one of the wonderful advantages of storytelling is the fact that a person, he didn't just make it around the block to safety, but at the same time, he like saved 3 other people.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by that type of a story. So in my view, you asked me a question about movies that I love. I'm a huge fan of European fare. I like little stories about human beings that save lives or do things, something special that are based on true stories. I'm really allured by that. Yeah, I wish you had asked me this question prior to this meeting, then I could really sit down and think. Obviously, I love The Godfather. I love those are the films I grew up with. And it's a crazy thing to say this, but for me, a movie can change a person's point of view. And I'm not preaching to somebody. That's not my goal. But I do believe that if you watch Yale and you're getting ready to sign your new driver's license, you may choose to be a donor just because you saw Yale. And that would thrill me because you're going to save a life.
Yeah.
And since I made this movie, and I'm talking, we wrapped it about 11 months ago, I'm going to tell you, I've met a half dozen people that have gotten kidney transplants, okay? Life-saving kidney transplants. They wouldn't be alive today if they didn't get it. And they all came from human beings that donated. And to me, it's relatable because whether it be my eyes or my toes or my kidney, I don't know. It seems to me, if you can tell a fun story, in this particular case, I think it's extraordinary what transpired. It motivates people to, hey, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. And final question, we were talking about feeling like a kid again. Back to the day when you realized you could be a director, maybe in your early days, to where you are now. When you look back and you look to where how far you've come, are you surprised? Is that how different you're talking about looking behind a camera, right? How different are you now than you were then? Or has the love for filmmaking always stayed tried and true and constant over the years?
You probably won't believe this because I'm so verbal, but I was very quiet and very shy. And when I was younger, and I got teased a lot because I had big dreams. I knew what I wanted to do. And early in my career, I wanted to be a photographer. And the outcome of it is when I went to college, most of the people that were going to college were vets, Vietnam vets. And you start to see different points of view. But they always looked at me like a kid that had big dreams. And to me, I don't think I've changed much in that regard because I still step back and do what most people don't do and go, how lucky I am. How lucky am I to be able to wake up, as I said multiple times, wake up in the morning and go, I think I'm going to give the character something that's not in the script to do that is going to change everything. And it's inspired by a little teeny moment. I don't know how to say this, but that's what makes life fulfilling for me.
Yeah. Jay, congratulations on a wonderful film. Good luck tomorrow night. And will you be hiding in the bathroom or will you be in the middle of the theater watching it with the fellow cinephiles?
I don't know.
You don't know yet, right?
I'll be walking around because in my eyes, it's so intimidating, but at the same time, so thrilling. Look, dreams do come true. And I say this in an incredibly passionate way, but with what's going on in the world right this moment, the world needs things cinematically that inspire people and or needs stories that make them feel less lonely or less awkward. That's my goal. And if I could do that to some people in the audience, there's no better fulfillment.
Great.
And that's the honest truth.
Thanks again, Jay. Really love Yale and talk to you for your next one.
Thank you so much, Greg. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Take care.